inputs here replacing the question mark, right? So now we have got this response, right? I'm happy, everyone is happy. We gave an input and we got a very standard response. Everybody is happy. But each and every time if I go and manually check if the response has come correctly, it is difficult for me, right? Instead, I can have certain checkpoints or verification points put inside my SoapUI test case, which will automatically check for whatever items I want to check in the SOAP response. Okay. So to have certain type of checkpoints or verification points in applied to your SoapUI response, you go ahead and use something called as assertions. So what do you think is the meaning of assertion? The word assertion, I'm not asking technically, I'm just asking in terms of plain English. What do you understand by the word assertion? What do you understand is the meaning of this word assertion? Anybody? Okay, someone says check or verifying, good. Any other answers? I'm just asking plain English meaning. What is assertion? Okay, someone says match. Okay. Match what? Okay, everybody is quiet. Someone says verifying the expected value with actual value. Very good, right? Assertion, someone says are rules. Close enough. Close enough. Okay. Someone says again, yeah, many of them are saying match the expected with the actual value. Yes, yes, yes. So the assertions, like you people have guessed, is going to allow us to match the expected with actual value. Okay, right? So let us start from a basic version of assertion and we'll move ahead. Okay, so it is going to be from a basic to a little bit of complicated one. So there are different types of assertions in SoapUI. SoapUI allows you to have a very large array of assertions, okay, ranging from HTML status messages. You can assert for a particular status message, okay. You can assert for a particular SLA attribute like response time, right? You can assert for a particular content, right? So if you take, we will start with HTML status message. If you take HTML status messages, there are some very distinct HTML status messages. See, I say 200. 200 stands for success message, okay? And 500 or 400 stands for failure message, right? So I can check if my SOAP response, if you see here, apart from the XML response, if I go to this raw tab, I get a 200 saying, which indicates that my HTTP response is a success. I have got a proper reply, right? I can check if my response is 200, that is if it is success or if it is failure, by using a HTML assertion point. Okay, so now let us take an example of a web service that is not responding. Okay, it will make more sense. So this is also a chance for us to see how multiple projects can be created under the same workspace. Right now my workspace is day 3. My first project is currency service. So let me take a web service that is not responding. Weather forecast. I think it was not responding yesterday. So let us give it a try. Okay, I'm going to create a new project now. I'm going to say file, new SoapUI project. I paste my URL here and I'm going to tell SoapUI to automatically create the test suite and I'm going to say OK. right? So there are two operations inside that web service. That is, there are two functions inside that web service. One is get cities by country, which takes a country name as input and gives all the cities in that country as output. And another one is get forecast by city, which will take a country name and a city name and give you the weather forecast of that particular city in that country. Right? Now I'm saying okay. So I'm going to give this Testsuite a name now. Okay. So now if you see here, I have project 1 which is currency service, project 2 which is weather forecast service. Both are under workspace day 3. Right. So now if you see here, the weather forecast service, the Testsuite is created automatically now. If I open the Testsuite has two tabs here. One is for the first operation, another one is for the second operation, right? So now let me open this get cities by country. Okay. So the SOAP request is added to that test case. I'm just opening the SOAP request. Okay. It is an empty SOAP request, so there is a question mark in the input. So the tag says country. So let us give a country name. I am going to give India. Okay. I am going to close this. Same way, I am going to close this test case window. And coming back to the Testsuite, now I am going to open get forecast by city by double clicking here. And in the SOAP request, it is asking for the city name. So I'm going to say Madras. And country, I'm going to say India. And I'm going to close this also. I'm closing this test case window. Now I have substituted inputs for both of these test cases. Everybody agrees with that? Everybody agrees with that? I have substituted inputs for both of these test cases. Okay, okay, thanks. Everyone agrees, right? Yeah, yes. So now, if you see here, you have one click of the submit button, you know that both these test cases will execute, right? So first let us submit, let us click on this run button and let us see what happens when these two test cases execute, and let us proceed from there. Oh, unluckily, the test case is working. Just a second, let me see. Okay. 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 The test case has passed because the request has reached the server and some type of response has come back. But if you see, the response is a fault string. Okay, the response says the server was not able to process the request due to an internal error, right? So if we go to this raw now, you will see that HTTP 500 is coming here, right? This is for the weather forecast operation inside that web service. Now, on the other hand, let me open this get cities by country test case and let us see the SOAP response for that. Wow, you see the SOAP response has Ahmedabad, Akola, Aurangabad, all the city names in India, right? So one of the test cases was pinged, both the test cases were able to receive the request and both in turn responded back. So the test case have passed. But if you see the response got by the second test case, that is get forecast, it has returned a HTTP failure message called 500. Now, as an automation tester, if it is all difficult for me to go and open this particular test case and see if the raw has a 500 error or a 200 success message, right? So for this, if there are 2 or 3 test cases, you can do it manually. Assume that your Testsuite has say 10 or 20 test cases. testing that manually will be a very challenging task, right? So to do that, we are going to use assertions. Now to add assertions, let us start one test case after the other, right? Now I am going to double click on this get cities by country test case. Okay, this is my test case. Here there is a SOAP request, which is my only test step inside this particular test case. I double click on that SOAP request. Now the SOAP request has a HTTP response 200, which says that I have got some valid reply, right? So I'm going to add a assertion here. To add an assertion, you have to click on this add assertion icon. You see here, there is an add assertion icon here. You have to click on this, or you also have an assertions tab here, which will have the same icon repeated. So you can click it from here. You can add assertion from here or from here. Both are one and the same, right? So now to add an assertion, I click on add assertion button. These are the various type of assertions that I have. It lists the recently used assertion. It has the property content assertion. It has the compliance status and standards assertion, script assertion, SLA assertion, and it also has JMS status assertions, and it also has security based assertions. So now we are going to use the compliance assertion. There are two, when it is HTTP, there are two types of compliance. Either it is an invalid HTTP status code, or it is a valid HTTP status code. I am going to add valid HTTP status code and invalid HTTP status code assertion for both the test cases. Okay. So when there is an invalid HTTP status code assertion, what it will check is, it will check if the response has any invalid HTTP status code like 500 or 400. On the other hand, a valid HTTP status code will check if it has a valid HTTP status code like 200. Okay. So let us add both these assertions. So first I am adding a valid HTTP status code here. I am saying add. So the valid HTTP status code I am looking out for here is 200, and I am saying OK. So if you see here, my assertion is valid for this particular response right now because it has the valid status code 200. I'll add one more assertion to also check for invalid HTTP status codes. I say add 500. Okay. So it checks if there are no invalid HTTP status codes, right? So now we are done adding assertions for this particular test case, right? So now let us come to get forecast now. Same steps I'm going to repeat. So now I'm going to click on assertions, add assertion. First I'm going to say valid HTTP status code. It will check if there is a valid positive HTTP status code 200. You see it is red because the response status code 500 is not in the acceptable list of status codes, right? So one more assertion, invalid status, where I say 500. Okay, the response status code 500 is an invalid list of status code. So why it has said failed in this particular test case is, in this particular test case, the assertion of the statements, that is 500 here, or the correct HTTP valid status code 200 here, both are not there. That is, there is the invalid status code 500 is present, so this is, the assertion has failed, and the correct status code 200 is not present, so again this status of this particular assertion has failed. The assertions at HTTP status code levels requires you to understand what type of HTTP error your web service can give you, right? So right now I know that it can give 500 internal server error whenever there is a problem, and if it is valid, it gives the error. It gives the HTTP status code 200, right? So to check for something like this, your HTTP assertions will help you, right? This is the first form of assertion, right? So I have some questions here. Okay, I have some questions. Those are standard assertion. Can I add any other than those? Definitely you can add other assertions. We'll be seeing those assertions in the coming classes. So can we add assertions in Testsuite level? Definitely you can add. That is a collective set of assertions which will allow you to evaluate that your entire Testsuite is working fine or not. That type of setting you can do. If we need to check for two values in an assertion, how are we going to give? For that, you need to go to advanced assertions using XPath. Advanced assertions using XPath. We will be seeing that as we go on in assertions. How anybody will get to know which value to be kept as input. Like 200 only, not 300. That is what you should get these inputs from your developers. You should know that when the web service fails, what type of HTTP error numbers are possible, and on success, what are the HTTP error numbers that are possible in real time. Okay, I've answered that. Okay, so someone says okay, someone says the HTTP status code. Yeah, we got the status code 500 because that particular what do I say? That particular status message received failed to be in the valid set of HTTP codes. That's why we got a fail here. Right? You see here 500 is in invalid list of status code, whereas here 500 is not an acceptable list of status code. The assertion level, the assertion is doing its job correct. This test case does not comply with the correct status code. That is what this assertion is checking, right? Right. So now let me quickly go to the initial small example of assertion based upon the content. Now, for those of you who asked how I will verify a value, how I should verify a particular value that is returned as a response and so on, we will go back a little bit to our currency converter example for this. So let me go back to my currency service project. I'll open the Testsuite. Okay, let us open the currency conversion test case. Right. So the SOAP response also is opened. Right. So for this particular input I give, that is USD and INR, I have a response which is the rate of conversion, that is 54.325. Now I want to make sure that I'm definitely getting a rate here, irrespective of whatever number it be. I am getting a rate here, and which means I'm getting a proper number here, right? I want to make sure of that, right? So for that, you can use a content-based assertion, which is what we will learn now, right? So first, let us take this content, copy the content, okay? Now come to assertions, add assertion. Now click on property content. Here select XPath match, okay, and say add, right? So paste the content here and select allow wildcards And here, instead of this fixed value 54.325, put a star, which indicates that any number, any value basically, right? So our expected result is ready. Now, what is XPath expression, right? That is the biggest question here. See, a XPath expression in a XML file or a HTML file is simply a reference to the elements inside that HTML file or XML file. Okay, simply put, right? So now, if you want to understand the XPath here, right, you should understand one thing, right? The first and basic namespace, you see here, it says declare namespaces, right? A namespace is nothing but, for now I'm just closing this, we will redo this step again. A namespace is nothing but, it is the one that is indicated with this URL. That is XML SOAP envelope. A namespace is nothing but the URL of the XML SOAP envelope. Okay. So there might be multiple namespaces inside a particular SOAP response. You see here, this XML namespace is indicated by the letter S. And I have one more XML namespace which is indicated by the letter A. Only if the XML namespace, this XML NS stands for XML namespace. Okay. If this XML namespace has a valid colon followed by a valid alphabet or something, only then it is a valid namespace. Lines like this which do not have a colon and a name do not fall under a valid namespace. Okay. So now all these contents are inside this namespace with the name yes, and inside that my rate is a tag that is present inside another namespace A. I am repeating, all the entire contents of this response is present inside this namespace yes, and inside this the rate is present inside the namespace A, which is indicated here. You see here, you have a A here, you have a A here. In turn, the contents of A are all present inside the body tag which belongs to the namespace yes. Is this clear to everybody? Please raise your hands. Is this clear to everybody? Without this, understanding assertions is difficult. Okay. Okay, I suppose everyone is clear. I have some questions. Okay, I think we can, okay, yes, please explain one more time, and most of them have said yes. Okay, someone has asked how we can know which codes are valid. The common HTTP valid codes, and especially codes that are valid and invalid for your web service, you can get them noted from your development team. I'm repeating that. Okay. Okay, I'm explaining this one more time. Okay. Okay, I'm explaining this one more time for the benefit of people who have asked it again. Okay, so there is a specific term called XMLNS here, which stands for XML namespace. Okay, every SOAP message should compulsorily have a namespace, right? This is as per W3C's W3C consortium's convention. So it is indicated by XMLNS. Okay. So if you can have multiple namespaces inside a SOAP message. Okay. Multiple namespaces can be there inside a SOAP message, right? So when you have multiple namespaces inside a SOAP message, a valid unique namespace will have a name which will be followed by XMLNS colon and a name. It can be any name. It can be a single letter. You will see yes in some responses. In some responses it can be SOAP, right? It is generally a valid alphabet string followed by colon after the XML namespace, right? So the SOAP namespace here in our response in this case is indicated by this letter yes. Okay, the entire SOAP response is present inside this namespace only. You see here it starts with yes and ends with yes. Everything else is present inside, right? And the another valid namespace that we have here with a colon and alphabet is this namespace A, right? This has a set of contents inside it, right? Which is nothing but from currency to currency and rate. You see here, it is all indicated by A colon, A colon, A colon. Same way here, S colon body, S colon envelope, S colon slash body, S colon envelope. So you need to know that these namespaces should be named using this colon, and they will refer to a set of contents which they are a boss of, right? Is it clear now? Is it clear now? Everybody, is it clear? Okay, right. Yes. So now we know that there are two namespaces here. One is namespace S, another one is namespace A. And the rate that I'm trying to assert for is present inside the namespace A, but my namespace A is in turn present inside my namespace S. Everybody agrees with this point? I am looking out for the rate. The rate is present inside namespace A, whereas my namespace A itself is present inside namespace S. Everybody agrees with this point? Okay, good. Right, everyone agrees. Right. Now, let us go to the assertion now. Assertion. I'm deleting this assertion. I'm just going to do it again. Okay, add assertion. Before that, let me just copy this entire SOAP response. Copy. Add assertion. Property content. XPath match.